Welcome to the Finely Tuned Infrastructure podcast by Rhythmic Technologies.
Great to be here.
Today, we're focusing on a really pivotal strategy, something that can genuinely transform how you manage your cloud resources.
Yeah, we're pulling insights directly from a pretty compelling article on the Rhythmic Technologies blog about AWS multi-account strategy.
Exactly. We're going to unpack that journey, the one lots of companies go through with AWS.
hmm
You start small, one account, add some developers, launch services.
Suddenly, things are kind of a mess. Chaos, really.
Right. And this Rhythmic blog post makes a really strong case for why moving to multiple accounts isn't just for, the huge enterprises.
No, not at all. It frames it as a critical step for anyone wanting long-term clarity, control, and importantly, security in their cloud setup.
What's interesting, and the blog really hits on this, is how often businesses put this off.
Yeah, they see it as, unnecessary complexity up front,
Right.
extra work.
But Rhythmic's analysis flips that. It argues adopting a multi-account strategy early is actually simpler in the long run.
Definitely. It prevents much bigger headaches later. It's about building that robust, scalable foundation right from the start. Or, well, as early as you can.
Okay, so let's dig into this a bit. The Rhythmic blog tackles some common objections directly.
Like a we're too small argument.
Exactly, or this seems like adding complexity we don't need.
Right.
But the article just counters that flat out. It says, look, if you have production workloads and more than one developer, you're not too small.
And the setup time isn't massive either. The blog suggests maybe, 2 to 4 hours for the basics?
Minimal. And it argues it's the opposite of complexity. It actually provides simple, hard boundaries, makes things clearer.
So that leads to the big question. Why is just sticking with one AWS account so, dangerous?
The blog paints a pretty vivid picture there. It gives scenarios like the 3 a.m. horror story.
Ah, yes. I think we can all imagine that one.
Right. Where some misconfigured script, maybe in a dev environment, even in a different VPC.
Can accidentally take down production.
Hmm.
Because in a single account, maybe the security groups are too permissive, or there are peering connections that shouldn't be there.
Exactly. It's a terrifying and honestly pretty common pitfall.
It really is.
And then there's the other classic, the budget meeting from hell.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Trying to explain the bill.
Totally. It becomes impossible to say why, $20,000 was spent on EC2.
Because the costs are all just jumbled together across different teams, different projects, maybe staging and prod, all in one bucket.
And tag-based billing can theoretically help, but the blog points out most teams really struggle to implement it well, consistently anyway. Across one big, sprawling account, it's tough.
Very tough.
Yeah.
But separating workloads into their own accounts, like the blog advises, that makes cost tracking proactive. It's transparent, clear, vital for accountability.
Definitely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, there's compliance. The compliance checkbox nightmare.
Huge one. Auditors need clear boundaries. They need to know what's what.
And the blog's point is, if you can't clearly show those environment boundaries,
Then everything in that single account is potentially in scope, which can be way more than necessary, creates so much extra work.
right. So a multi-account strategy gives you straightforward ways to avoid these outage risks, the cost confusion, the compliance headaches.
And it saves potentially months or even years of painful effort trying to untangle things later. Retrofitting structure is hard.
The blog has that great analogy too. Single account, giant warehouse, anyone can touch anything.
Versus multi-account, organized spaces, doors, locks, clear ownership. It really drives it home.
And the key reminder, AWS accounts themselves are free, so use them.
Absolutely. Leverage them for that separation.
So for organizations thinking, okay, we need to do this, how does the Rhythmic blog suggest getting started? What's the path?
It lays out a pretty clear path, actually. It all centers around AWS organizations.
Right, that's the service for hierarchically organizing your accounts. Centralized management for auth, logging, security policies.
Exactly. And the very first step, according to the blog, just enable an organization. That's job one.
Okay.
And then the blog strongly recommends starting with AWS Control Tower.
Ah, okay. Tell us about that.
Control Tower basically sets up a well-architected multi-account environment for you. It gives you those core accounts immediately.
Like the management account for central control.
Yep. An audit account, which is crucial for emergency access and hooking in security tools.
And a log archive account.
Right, to consolidate all your logs from everywhere into one secure place. The blog also mentions you can add others later, like for backups, but those first three are the core from Control Tower. day one essentials.
Makes sense. So once that foundation is there, you add your actual workload accounts.
Exactly. And the blog suggests keeping it simple initially. Create separate accounts for each environment.
So a production account may be named My Company Prod,
hmm A staging or test account, like My Company Staging.
and a development account, My Company Dev.
Yeah. And for most teams just starting out with this, the blog says one set of those, one prod, one staging, one dev is usually enough to begin with.
Okay, but that leads to the question, when do you need more than just that one set? When do you split into multiple workload groups?
Good question. Rhythmic's analysis gives a few pointers. Like, if you have maybe 3 or more really distinct applications, and they have genuinely different security needs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or if you have, say, 2 or more separate teams, and they rarely work on the same code, different life cycles, different requirements.
Right, or maybe one app handles much more sensitive data.
Exactly. Those are all good reasons to consider creating additional sets of prod staging dev accounts grouped maybe by application or team.
What about folks already stuck in that single account chaos? They're listening and thinking, help,
Yeah, the blog addresses that too. It offers a practical migration path.
which is?
It advises creating a new, clean management account first. This becomes the root of your new AWS organization.
Okay, start fresh at the top.
Right. Then you invite your existing messy account into this new organization.
Right.
And you initially treat that whole existing account as your first production account.
Got it. So you contain the existing chaos first.
Exactly. Then you can gradually, carefully start moving things out of that original account into new dedicated accounts, like setting up proper dev and staging accounts within the organization.
That sounds manageable. Does the blog give a sort of timeline?
It does, yeah. A very practical, phased one. Week 1 is about creating that new management account, enabling organizations, inviting the old account.
Great.
Weeks 2, 3 are focused on getting control tower set up, creating those first new dev and staging accounts.
Right, building the new structure.
Then, months 2, 3 are for migrating the non-production workloads out of the old account into the new ones.
Taking your time.
And then refinement.
Exactly.
Months 3, 6 are for really dialing in permissions, using things like IAM Identity Center, setting up better cost allocation, maybe optimizing the network setup between accounts.
That sounds like a solid plan. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The Rhythmic blog talks about quick wins you'll see immediately.
Yeah, this is the payoff. It emphasizes that within days of just getting the basic multi-account structure in place,
You see benefits, like what?
clear cost attribution, for one. Suddenly, it's trivial to see production spent X, dev spent Y, no more guesswork.
That alone is huge. What else?
Blast radius containment, that runaway script in dev,
Yeah.
it simply cannot touch production anymore, period. They're in different accounts, isolated.
Peace of mind right there.
Absolutely. And simplified compliance. You can point auditors to specific isolated accounts instead of that one giant murky pool.
Okay, those are compelling reasons to make the switch sooner rather than later.
Definitely. The immediate benefits are tangible.
Now, you mentioned permissions. The blog highlights setting up SSO, right? Now called IAM Identity Center.
Yes, absolutely critical. This is what makes managing multiple accounts actually practical day to day. Otherwise, you're juggling credentials, which is a nightmare.
How hard is the setup?
The blog says it's surprisingly quick, maybe 30 minutes for the initial setup.
Really? That fast?
Yeah. You'd enable it in your management account, create some basic permission sets. The blog suggests starting simple, like power user and read only.
Okay.
And then you just assign your users or groups to the specific accounts they need access to with the right permission set.
And the blog also mentions connecting it to existing identity providers, like Google Workspace, Okta, Active Directory.
Yes, huge point. If you already use one of those, you connect IAM Identity Center to it.
So developers use their normal company login.
Exactly. Single sign-on across everything. And, critically, this helps eliminate the need for long-lived IAM access keys for users, which is a major security improvement.
That's a massive win for both usability and security. Okay, let's shift to learnings. The Rhythmic blog outlines some common mistakes to avoid.
Yeah, really practical advice here. Mistake, #1, over-engineering day one.
Meaning?
Don't go crazy creating dozens of accounts right away or building super complex organizational unit hierarchies, these OUs.
Keep it simple, basically.
Right. The blog suggests starting with basic OUS, like security, production, non-production. That's often enough initially. And critically, it warns against using service control policies, or SCPs, too early.
Why is that?
Because if you don't fully understand your needs yet, SCPs can block things unexpectedly and cause a lot of frustration for developers trying to get work done. Get the basics right first.
Okay, makes sense. What's mistake? #2.
Forgetting about costs. Even with multiple accounts, you need to be mindful.
How so?
Primarily, minimize unnecessary cross-account data transfer. The blog warns this can add like 10–20% to your bill if you're not careful. Data flowing between accounts isn't always free.
Good point. Any other cost traps?
Yeah, don't just duplicate things like NAT gateways in every single account. That gets expensive fast, like $45 a month per gateway.
So what's the alternative?
Use shared networking options like AWS Transit Gateway or even VPC peering in simpler setups to share resources like NAT gateways across accounts. Much more cost-effective.
And reserved instances or savings plans?
Crucial. The blog stresses enabling RI and savings plan sharing across all accounts in your organization settings. It's just a toggle.
And that saves.
Potentially 20–30% on your compute costs right there. It pools the discounts across all accounts. A massive financial win.
Wow. Okay. Easy money to leave on the table if you missed that. And mistake? #3.
Weak emergency procedures. This is about your break glass access.
What happens if SSO fails or someone gets locked out?
Exactly. The blog stresses you absolutely must test this emergency access path regularly, like quarterly.
Document it too.
Yes, document it thoroughly, maybe with screenshots. Keep the MFA tokens for those emergency accounts in separate physical locations, not all together.
And root account credentials.
Store them super securely. Think hardware MFA, store it offsite, maybe in a safe. Use a robust password manager with very limited access. And importantly, use IAM capabilities to basically eliminate the need for ever using the root user credentials in the child accounts themselves. Lock those down.
Right. Really button up that emergency access, but make sure it works.
It's vital for resilience. You need to know you can get back in if the worst happens.
So to kind of pull this all together, the Rhythmic blog mentions tools that make this manageable.
Yeah, it covers both AWS native options and some useful third-party ones.
Native ones being Control Tower for starting fresh.
IAM Identity Center for access management, which we just discussed.
And AWS Organizations itself, the foundation.
Exactly. Those are the core AWS building blocks.
But then it calls out some third-party MVPs.
Yeah, which is interesting. It mentions org formation, which gives you sort of infrastructure as code, like CloudFormation, but for managing your entire organization structure. Good for complex setups.
Okay.
Also, the Terraform Organizations module, obviously key for teams already heavily using Terraform.
Right. Manage it all with the tools you already use.
And then one called SteamPipe.
SteamPipe, what's that?
It lets you run SQL queries across all your AWS accounts simultaneously for security checks, compliance reporting, cost analysis. The blog says it becomes invaluable once you have, say, 5 or more accounts. Lets you see across the whole estate.
That sounds incredibly powerful for visibility.
It really is.
So wrapping up, the Rhythmic blog really paints this picture of moving from, as it says, account chaos to organizational bliss.
Yeah, it acknowledges the journey isn't always, perfectly smooth sailing. There can be bumps.
But the message is clear. It's absolutely worth the effort.
Definitely. The advice boils down to start small, automate what you can early on, and remember, those accounts are free.
But the clarity and control they bring.
That's priceless, truly.
Which leaves a final thought, maybe, for everyone listening.
Yeah, perhaps consider. How much clearer could your own cloud environment be? How much better would you sleep, really, knowing that when that 3 a.m. alert does hit?
You know exactly where to look.
Exactly. Which account, which team, and crucially, knowing your production systems are safely walled off from whatever just went sideways in dev or staging. That peace of mind is huge.
That's a powerful takeaway. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Finely Tuned Infrastructure Podcast by Rhythmic Technologies.
Hope this discussion on multi-account strategies was useful.
We certainly hope it's given you plenty to think about for your own cloud infrastructure setup.
Yeah, lots to consider there.
Just a quick note, this episode was generated with some assistance from AI, but all the core insights and expertise come directly from the folks at Rhythmic Technologies.
That's right.
For the original article this was based on, and a lot more valuable content, definitely check out rhythmictech.com.
Good stuff over there.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with more finely tuned insights.